Shalom and welcome to this episode of Did You Know? I'm your host, Rabbi Ira from Shalom Boca Messianic Congregation here in Boca Raton.
And I'm your co-host, Trysten Tice.
All right, Trysten, so what are we going to chat about today?
Okay, so in our other video, I had talked about how people have been commenting and responding to what we're talking about with questions, which is what we were hoping for.
Yeah.
And someone commented and said, we don't believe in Jesus because our Torah tells us, this was under the video, why don't Jews believe in Jesus? We don't believe in Jesus because our Torah tells us, 1, God is not a man. 2, don't follow prophets that perform miracles and then encourage you to worship false gods. 3, he never fulfilled the 3 major requirements to be the true Messiah. And 4, the entire New Testament is unverifiable and invalid. So let's just jump right in. Okay. Addressing question 1.
Yeah, this is good.
God is not a man. What are your thoughts?
So obviously this is written by a Jewish person who does not yet believe in Yeshua.
Yeah.
So the idea that God would become a man actually is very common in the Hebrew Scriptures, that he appeared many times. So one of the prominent ones is Genesis 18, when God appears to Abraham along with 2 others. So it says, first it says, and God appeared to Abraham. That's in Genesis chapter 18. And there's 3 men there. And Abraham shows hospitality, welcomes them, and so on and so on. And then later, there's a whole discussion about whether we should tell Abraham the plan about Sodom and Gomorrah.
Right.
So it was clearly God showing up as a man there. And there are other instances as well. Another one is Joshua, when Joshua bows down to what he called the Lord of Hosts, right? And the Lord himself. It was God coming in a human form. Another one is the parents of Samson, that this entity appears to them, and then later on they say this was God, and it was in a human form. So there's a lot of evidence of God becoming human. And then also it goes along with the scripture in Isaiah, the promise of unto us in chapter 9, unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Now in the Hebrew, those all are terms related to God himself.
Right.
Okay, and so here we have a baby that's going to be born, a son, that will also be, and it says at the end of that verse, and there shall be no end to his government. In other words, you could say he's the kingdom. He's the king, because he's going to rule on the earth. So this idea that God can't become a man is not, there's no basis for that. Now we can discuss whether that person is fulfilled in Yeshua. It's another conversation, perhaps.
But to just say God is not a man isn't exactly accurate. But also, Jesus wasn't just a man. He was also God in human form. And God has appeared to people in nature, in a burning bush. He's spoken through a donkey. Like, why would it be out of biblical possibility for God?
Yeah, that's a good point.
To be through a man.
God, he's sovereign.
God can do whatever he wants,
appear
actually.
in any way he wants to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so the idea that God came in a man, that we believe, Yeshua, of course, is not outside the realm of his pattern in the Hebrew Scriptures, in the Tanakh.
Right.
The Old Testament, yeah.
Question 2. Don't follow prophets that perform miracles and then encourage you to worship false gods.
Yeah, so I would take that to mean that whoever wrote that, again, Jewish person, is referring to Jesus as one that encouraged people to follow idols or something like that.
Yeah.
Right? Which is ridiculous, because Jesus came to bring us to the Father, right?
Right.
And throughout the gospel accounts, he said in John that he came to bring us to the Father.
Yep.
I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. So he didn't draw attention. He wasn't coming to draw attention to himself. He was coming to bring us to the Father.
Yes.
And he's the means by which we can do that because of his sacrifice. So this idea that he directed people to worship idols is ridiculous. Anyone that reads the Gospels, even if you don't believe it, there's no evidence of Yeshua doing anything like that.
Right. And also with that, Jesus consistently, like you're saying, pointed them back to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So it wasn't a different God. It wasn't pagan worship. Like that just...
Yeah, and if you read John 17, which is kind of his final prayer of intercession for his disciples, but also for us, he says it's not just for you, but for those that will come because of your message, that they would be one even as you and I are one, meaning him and the Father. So he was never a separate, way of worship that would draw people to idolatry.
Yeah. Also, real quick, additionally, he would often rebuke people that were participating in pagan worship or, seeking mediums, spiritualists, necromancers.
Yeah.
He never encouraged idolatry. He said, turn from your idols.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
very
So that's
consistent through Old and New Testament.
Yeah. What's
3,
the next one?
he never fulfilled the 3 major requirements to be the true Messiah.
Well, I'm not sure what this person's view of those 3 things are. Traditionally, I know from other conversations, many times Jewish people discount the possibility that Jesus could be the Messiah because there's no world peace, that he's going to bring world peace. Okay, so it's true there is no world peace. Obviously, the world's in turmoil. It has been for 2,000 years, and it seems like there's never been a day where there hasn't been turmoil, wars, and so on. However, that does not negate the possibility that Yeshua is the Messiah, because he did bring peace to our hearts first, but also we believe that when he comes again is when that fulfillment will happen of world peace, when he establishes his throne, reestablishes the throne of David in Jerusalem, and all the nations will go and worship him. So that's one of the ones that there's, I don't know what the other 2 might be.
Right. And I think there's, in response to the prophecies, which actually gets into his 4th issue, was with the prophecies saying, or the 3 major, requirements to be the true Messiah, but talking about the prophecies with that, Jesus fulfilled the prophecies, but I think they also have that stumbling block with like the coming back again, which we've addressed in other episodes.
And it's hard to, if you just say, okay, maybe Jesus isn't the Messiah, but let's see what that Messiah is to look like based on the prophecies in the Hebrew Scriptures. Okay, starting, you could say, even Genesis 3:15, with there'll be one, when God is rebuking Adam and Eve for fall, for the rebellion, and the prophecy about that you'll the devil, Satan, will bruise his heel, right? But you will be defeated. In other words, and go through there, and then there's prophecy of the tribe, Judah. A scepter will not pass from the tribe of Judah. Oh, so the king will come through Judah.
Right.
Kings of Israel, which is true. David and his descendants were all from tribe of Judah. And you go to the prophecies. So if you piece all these together like a puzzle,
where he'd be born as well, and
where he would be born,
the virgin birth, but
when he would be born. Daniel described that
how
the Messiah would come before the destruction of the temple. How he would be born, what his life would be like, what he would do in life, how
Isaiah
he would
53.
Die. Isaiah 53, which includes the purpose of his coming, that he would take upon himself the sins of the world, and that he would see his life again, meaning he would be resurrected. And on and on and on. There's 200 or more prophecies of the Messiah. And if you look at it as a 1,000-piece puzzle, and all the pieces are all, when you start a puzzle, right? All the pieces are all mixed up, and then you start putting them together. each of those pieces are a prophetic picture of who you, of the Messiah. You put it all together, there's only one person that fits that bill.
Amen.
That when you put all those pieces together, there's Yeshua.
There he is. That's the puzzle.
Yeah.
Question 4. This isn't even a question, it's a statement, but question 4. The entire New Testament is unverifiable and invalid.
Yeah, I don't know where. Obviously, someone who would write that has not done any research, because there's tons of research that verify the authenticity of the New Testament. Now, you could choose not to believe what it says, but there's fragments of John that were found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, in the caves. There are other verifications archaeologically and in other ways of, plus you have the witnesses, you have corroboration from outside, from people like Josephus, and even the Talmud makes reference to Jesus as well. And so this idea that the New Testament is not verified or not authentic is,
false.
Yeah.
And so I researched it too, and this is what it says. The New Testament is supported by thousands of ancient manuscripts, making it the most well-documented work of antiquity. There are over 5,800 Greek manuscripts, some dating back to the 2nd century AD, far closer to the events they describe than many other ancient texts.
Yeah.
And it's not even arguable that, like, what Jesus walked on earth, the resurrection has thousands of eyewitness accounts. Like,
yes.
Just
yeah,
no.
and this is a common objection. Well, the New Testament is a bunch of stories, but that one of the things that you said just reminded me of that. So I used to think the same way, before I became a believer in Yeshua. That that's just stories that people came up with. But I started doing my own research, and one of the things that impressed me was one of the signs of the authenticity is the length of time between the oldest documents and the actual events that happen. And compared to other, just like what you read, compared to other ancient documents, the New Testament, between the oldest verifiable documents, original documents, and the actual events, is one of the shortest gaps of any ancient documents.
Right.
Which just adds to its authenticity.
Right.
So anyone that has that idea, which I did, I confess that I had that idea as well, because I had not done the research. And so if that's you, I would say do the research, and objective research that shows that the New Testament is a reliable document of antiquity. Now, whether you choose to believe it is another story.
Right. But it's worth researching into.
Absolutely.
And again, don't just take our word for it because we're just sitting here talking about it. It's definitely worth researching and looking into. And I love that you had said that you used to believe that. But when you actually did your own research and looked into it some more.
Yeah. And even the evidence of the resurrection, because some people could say, well, I can believe that Jesus was a true historical figure. He was a good man. He was a good prophet. And but this idea that he was resurrected, that was an invention of his followers. That's not true either, because there's also, besides the witness of his followers that they wrote about in the Bible, in the New Testament, there's also outside corroboration by a guy named Josephus.
Mm-hmm.
Also, it's written about, although it's written about him in a negative light, in the Babylonian Talmud, which is a Jewish document.
Yeah.
Commentary, right? Even though he's considered, heretic. But yet the evidence is there that
yeah, there's a ton of evidence. So there's our answers to those 4 questions / statements. But I hope we just handle it with just honesty, some boldness, but also grace. I know that there's just hard questions and feelings that come up when we talk about, like, Yeshua is the Messiah. That causes a lot of people to feel a type of way. But if that leads to more questions for you, or something in this has refutes that you want to make, or other questions or other concerns, we would love to talk through those with you. Our goal is to just share who Yeshua was, how he fulfilled the prophecies. Is he the Son of God? Is he the Messiah or is he not? And we've both been in this journey, as Jewish believers now at this point that have come to decide that Yeshua is in fact the Messiah that we've all been longing for to meet and waiting for.
Amen. Yeah, we just want to welcome any questions that you might have. Please post them.
Yeah.
And I'll be happy to answer those questions in future episodes.
Yes. And like, comment, subscribe, share, all the things. And we will see you guys next week. Bye.